So we have the full spoilers for chapter 33 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, and a lot is happening. The person on the cover is Sarada, and the title is The Broken Future. There is also some side text that says, the heavy price to pay for the sake of protecting something, which isn't here for some reason. But yeah, the next one says, Sarada faints. The Mamushi plan fails, falling into predicament. Now the first page of the chapter starts with an army of Mamushis and Sarada still in Boruto's arms with Konohamaru and Mitsuki at their side. After Kawaki and Sarada collapsed, the plan heads towards failure. What will Boruto and the others do in front of 1000 Mamushis? And I believe this is the side text on the first page. Now we then get this panel of Himawari running over to Kawaki. But Kawaki then tells Hima that he just ran out of gas, and also that she should worry about Sarada instead, which is very interesting. I doubt Kawaki has ever shown concern for Sarada, so there's that. But yeah, Sumire yells, Boruto, what is Sarada's condition? We then get this panel of Boruto caressing Sarada's face, and it says here, while wiping the blood from her eye, Boruto reports that Sarada is still breathing, and her life doesn't seem to be in danger, but he's worried about the damage to her eye from the Mangekyo. Himawari then rushes over and asks to see her. Himawari then does the healing thing that she does with the Nine Tails, which is kind of funny because the first and only time she did this was with Sarada, and now she's doing it with Sarada again. But it says here that Himawari fixes the damage to Sarada's veins or blood vessels and stops the bleeding, but she doesn't know what the lasting effects will be. So no, Himawari didn't restore her vision, she just kinda stopped the bleeding. Now Ada then says Sarada's name in a worrying way while Mamushi laughs at them. Damon is annoyed by all these pests buzzing around and tells them all to come at him at once, and Mamushi then charges towards him. We then switch to a convo between Inojin and the Kashin Koji. Inojin then says no matter how he looks at the situation, he thinks they'll all get wiped out. He then asks Koji how much he knows about the future. Koji then replies that his last update was over 4 days ago, and that was one where he explained to Inojin about the mind-body transmission jutsu, but since then he has gotten no new information. Koji then goes on to explain to Inojin about his updates, that he can't control when they come, and that the various known developments from varying futures have occurred since then. But the utmost unfortunate, unforeseen development was Mamushi's arrival overlapping with Kobu's visit, and we covered that in the prior video, so I'm not going to do that again. Now somehow it does seem as if Amado is listening to this conversation, and he ponders about it. 10 paths or prescience, depending on the translation, the ability to see the future. So there was such a thing. So it seems as if Amado didn't know about this. And this is important because this is internal dialogue. Amado isn't speaking to anyone. He isn't trying to confuse or convince someone else that he doesn't know. So I think we can take this as gospel. Now this part is a bit confusing, but it says Inojin thinks Koji's ability was better and he could get a better grasp on things than this. Koji then replies that to know the future is to break the future. And I covered this in my video on the prior spoiler, that this ability is not that great, man. It's not that useful because simply knowing the future changes it. And I had a few comments which I did respond to saying that, well, you know, if Koji doesn't tell anyone about it, then it can be useful. But even here, he confirms, and it was confirmed back in chapter 16, that he doesn't have to tell anyone or even act upon it or try to change it. Him simply knowing the future already changes the future. So while it can be used to gain some knowledge from the future, it isn't reliable when it comes to predicting the future, which is kinda ironic given its purpose. But yeah, we then skip back to Damon fighting Mamushi. Damon blasts the head off one of the Mamushi and kicks down several others. But while he's fighting, Ada gets surrounded. On top of being disgusted, as per usual, the Mamushi clones seemingly smell awful as they pile around her. But of course, Big Boruto steps in and swipes them away with his sword. Now as Ada shrinks in disgust, Shikadai and Chocho comment on the corpses piling up. The rate at which Mamushi is increasing is faster than they can take him down. Damon's stamina should have a limit. At this rate, they're all gonna get taken out. Now Damon then once again takes out a burst of Mamushi's, and this time it seems like he's using his reflection, because he's touching Mamushi and then the heads of the rest of them begin to explode. Blood and skin and debris go flying as clone after clone collapse to the ground. But I just love the suspense created by this leaker. He's just using the cliffhanger moments there to say, but wait, something else is about to happen. And I shouldn't find that funny, but I don't know, I just find it funny. But anyways, Damon is indeed running low on stamina. He's panting, out of breath, and there's still a horde of clones to deal with. So apparently, the strongest being ever with limitless power does indeed have a limit. Unfortunate. Now it also says Mitsuki steps up with his Sage mode, as well as, and there's that pause, Boruto and Delta assist, but there still seems to be no end to them. Boruto asks Shikamaru to tell him honestly what they should do in this kind of situation. And of course, instead of getting the answer, we then switch to another perspective, which is back to Inojin and Koji. Koji tells Inojin that he originally learned the mind-body transmission jutsu after many villagers' lives were lost in the Mamushi fight. That is why this future is so different than any of the others he saw. While fighting Mamushi, didn't he feel as though he was weak? Ada and Himawari are also still alive. Koji thinks this is a result of him telling Inojin about the new jutsu. Inojin yells that if that is the case, why are they still in the situation they're in now? Isn't this just as bad? Where is the chance at winning? Inojin then yells, asking what the point of learning this new jutsu even was. What use can it be in this situation? And then he slowly comes to a realization. Inojin thinks back to what Amado said in the previous chapter about the Mamushi potentially having one single collective consciousness, and Koji looks at him knowingly. He then goes on to say that it is true, the future has gone quite differently than any of those that he saw, but the strength of 10 paths or prescience is information, which is what I previously said, so even Koji agrees. But he then says despite the different circumstances, Koji saw a scene similar to this one in another future. Because Mamushi's intelligence has declined to its absolute limit, there are new measures they can take. Inojin then says there's no need to explain things. He's got no choice but to do it. Koji replies that even in other futures, this idea came about as a result of Inojin himself. Inojin's resolve to destroy this shitty future using his new jutsu. And what I think they're implying here is that Inojin is going to connect his mind to one Mamushi, which would then connect him to all of them because they have that shared consciousness. And then when he dies, they all die. Or maybe he controls Mamushi to then have him killed, and then all of them will die alongside him. I think that's what they're going for, but we'll see. It then says that Ada flies away from the swarm of fallen Mamushi with Damon on her back. The corpses are piling up. They have no choice but to keep their distance for now, but Mamushi is faster. Damon says he'll swat them down and tells Ada to keep flying away. But Boruto, of course, swoops in and slashes them with his sword. Boruto then says that he'll back them up and tells them to keep flying. Ada says, "Boruto-kun, thank you." Shikamaru thinks out loud, trying to find a solution, when suddenly Inojin stops the mind-body transmission jutsu. Meanwhile, a toad appears on the battlefield. Inojin gets into a reverse summon circle facing Koji. Koji prays for Inojin's success, and with that, Inojin is reverse summoned onto the battlefield. Himawari turns just in time to see him running, and he yells, "Himawari-chan." Himawari then turns Inojin. Inojin apologizes in katakana for emphasis, saying, "I'm sorry. I'm leaving the aftermath to you." After that, he yells Shikadai's name and asks him to stop the movements of just one Mamushi clone, then starts weaving hand signs. Shikadai then uses the Shadow Paralysis Jutsu. Inojin rushes forward towards the target, throws out both his arms and ... Inojin uses Mind Transfer Jutsu. Inojin's unconscious body then falls forward. Mamushi then mumbles some broken syllables incoherently. The Mamushi clones are acting strange. Damon and Boruto turn around. Shikadai, of course, then goes on to explain that even though Inojin only took over one of the Mamushis with mind transfer, the entire flock has somehow stopped moving. As Kawaki wonders what's happening, Amado thinks, so I was right. Amado then theorizes that what Inojin took over wasn't just one clone. Sumire then asked if this was the shared consciousness he was talking about earlier. Amado then confirms that this does indeed seem to be the case. So now Inojin is in control of every single Mamushi. Now as Mamushi mutters incoherently, Inojin reflects on Koji telling him that the Mamushis who have lost their eyes are unable to multiply. He then shouts Damon's name. In his mind, Inojin thinks, I'm going to pulverize both of your eyes. And as Mamushi's eyes seemingly splurt out blood, the same thing happens with Inojin's eyes as he lays unconscious on the ground. Himawari, of course, rushes over to him, yelling his name, and all the Mamushi surrounding them have their eyes pulverized. They all then fall to the ground. Shikadai and Chocho are confused as to what exactly is happening. Kawaki watches the situation as Himawari desperately works to heal Inojin. Kawaki watches the situation. The Mamushis begin to decay all throughout the town from around Mitsuki and Delta and Ada and Damon. Delta doesn't really know what's going on, but it seems like Mamushi has been defeated. Boruto then sheathes his sword as the Thorn Soul materializes. Kawaki looks up into the sky wondering if that's a Thorn Soul bulb. Boruto takes it and descends to the ground. The moment he lands, Kawaki calls out to him, asking what he intends to do with it. Boruto responds that he's not a shinobi, so he might end up rotting. Kawaki responds with, rotting? Meanwhile, a claw mark sneaks up Mamushi's tree, and the eye appears. Boruto intends to bring Bug back from his tree form, but there's a mysterious eye lying in wait to ambush, and it's obviously Code. So Code is now relevant again. But that's it for the video. Now there might be a slight pitch change at some point in the video because I kinda fell asleep and woke up much later on in the night, so that explains why. But also, spoilers were great, chapters are great. Let me know your thoughts as usual. I am going to bed. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.